Welcome to another episode of the Business English Podcast. I'm your host, Rob, and today we're diving into a topic that's crucial for anyone stepping into a mentoring role, especially in a professional setting where English is the lingua franca. It's all about striking that perfect balance between being professional yet not patronizing, especially when English is not your first language. In this episode titled Professional Not Patronizing, Mentoring in the Business English World, we're going to explore the nuances of language that can make or break your effectiveness as a mentor. You know, it's not just about what you say, but how you say it. And in the world of business, where every word counts, getting this right can truly set you apart as a leader and a communicator. So, whether you're mentoring a colleague, guiding a team, or offering advice to a peer, the phrases and tone you use can significantly impact your professional relationships. We'll delve into some key phrases that exude professionalism and respect, and also discuss the phrases that are better left unsaid, if you know what I mean. And the best part, you'll get the chance to listen and repeat these phrases and then hear them used in real world contextual examples. This is not just about passive listening. I want you to be actively engaged, practicing and internalizing these phrases. But that's not all. I'm also going to throw in some common pitfalls to avoid, ensuring your mentorship style is always perceived as supportive and empowering, never patronizing or demeaning. This episode is packed with insights, practical tips, and real life scenarios that will help you navigate the complexities of business English in a mentoring role. So, stay tuned and let's embark on this journey together to refine our communication skills and become more effective mentors in the international business arena. Trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll not only feel more confident in your role as a mentor, but also in your ability to communicate in business English with clarity and empathy. But first, a message from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Business English Podcast, helping professionals communicate more effectively, more confidently, and with impact. With your host, Rob, from Energetic English. Let's get down to business. In this section, we're going to focus on key phrases that are essential for effective mentoring in business contexts. Remember, it's not just about the words, but how you say them and how they're perceived. Before we begin, as is customary here on the Business English Podcast, I want to remind you that I will be repeating every phrase twice before pausing, allowing you to repeat, note down, and internalize them. Okay, let's begin. Here are the 5 phrases. First phrase, I recommend considering. I recommend considering. Let's start with this phrase. It's extremely useful when giving suggestions or advice. This phrase is a great way to offer suggestions without sounding imposing. It shows respect for the other person's autonomy in decision making. Now, let's put it into context. Imagine you're discussing a project with a mentee who is unsure about the next steps. You might say, I recommend considering a more streamlined approach to the project management process. It's suggestive, not directive, and that's key in mentoring. Okay, the second phrase. Have you thought about? Have you thought about? A phrase that encourages your mentee to explore different perspectives. This is a gentle way to steer the conversation or suggest alternatives without coming across as overbearing. Here's how you might use it. Your mentee is facing a challenge and feels stuck. You could say, have you thought about collaborating with the marketing team on this? Opens up avenues for discussion and brainstorming. Okay, the third phrase. It might be beneficial to. It might be beneficial to. Now, this phrase is effective in suggesting a course of action while remaining consultative in your approach. For instance, if your mentee is working on improving their skills, you could advise, it might be beneficial to attend the upcoming analytics workshop. It's a subtle nudge, not a push. Okay, the fourth phrase here. What's your view on? What's your view on? This encourages dialogue and shows that you value their perspective. In practice, it might sound like, in a meeting when discussing strategy, ask your mentee, what's your view on the proposed changes? It fosters a two-way conversation and empowerment. Okay, the fifth and final phrase for today. One approach could be, one approach could be. This phrase is excellent for brainstorming sessions. Here's how it works. When your mentee is exploring solutions to a problem, you could say, one approach could be to conduct a customer feedback survey. It presents an idea as one of many possibilities. Remember, the goal here is not just to memorize these phrases, but to understand their impact in a mentoring context. They are all tools to facilitate effective, respectful, and empowering communication. In our next segment, we'll delve into the phrases to avoid, but for now, try using these phrases in your daily professional interactions. See how they change the dynamics of your mentoring relationships. Stay tuned and let's continue to refine our mentoring skills together. So far, we've explored some key phrases to use in mentoring. Now, let's shift our focus to the phrases that are better left unsaid. In mentorship, especially in a multicultural, professional setting, it's crucial to avoid language that might come across as patronizing or dismissive. So, let's dive into some common phrases to avoid and what you can say instead. Our first phrase to steer clear of is, you should just. This can sound dismissive and overly simplistic. Instead, try saying, have you considered? This opens up a dialogue and shows respect for the mentee's ability to find solutions. For instance, instead of saying, you should just rework the entire project, you could say, have you considered seeking feedback on specific sections of the report? Next, avoid saying, it's easy, just, as it can undermine the challenges your mentee might be facing. Instead, opt for, one step you might try is. This acknowledges the complexity of the task while providing helpful guidance. Replace it's easy, just recognize your priorities, with one step you might try is evaluating your tasks based on the urgency and importance. Another phrase to avoid is, I wouldn't do it that way. This can sound critical and discouraging. A better alternative is, another perspective might be, this phrase encourages considering different approaches without negating the mentee's idea. So instead of saying, I wouldn't do it that way, try, another perspective might be to consider the long-term impact of this decision. The phrase, that's not right, can be too blunt and can shut down conversation. Replace it with, let's explore other possibilities. This fosters a learning environment and encourages exploration of ideas. Instead of saying, that's not right, you might say, let's explore other possibilities that align with our objectives. Lastly, avoid saying, just do what I tell you. This is authoritative and stifles independent thinking. A more constructive phrase is, I suggest trying. This provides guidance while respecting the mentee's autonomy. So instead of just do what I tell you, use I suggest trying this approach and seeing how it works for you. In mentorship, the words we choose have a significant impact. They can either build confidence and foster growth, or do the exact opposite. By avoiding these phrases and using more inclusive, respectful language, we create a more positive and effective mentoring environment. Remember, the goal is to guide, not dictate, to support, not to undermine. Stay with us, as in the last segment, we'll move into some practical applications. Now, we've reached the final segment of our episode, Professional Not Patronising, Mentoring in Business English. We've covered what to say and what not to say in a mentoring context. Now, let's look at how you can apply these phrases in various mentoring scenarios, enhancing your role as an effective mentor. The first scenario, guiding career development. In a situation where you're helping a mentee with career development, phrases like, "What are your long-term professional goals?" can be very impactful. This shows that you're interested in their growth and are there to support their journey. You could follow this with, "Let's map out a plan to achieve these goals," which encourages a collaborative approach to career planning. Okay, the second scenario, overcoming a challenge. When a mentee is facing a challenge, using phrases like, "What strategies have you considered so far?" can be empowering. It demonstrates your confidence in their ability to think critically about the issue. You might then guide them with, "Let's explore the pros and the cons of these strategies to collaboratively find a solution together." The third scenario, providing feedback. Feedback is a critical aspect of mentoring. Phrases like, "I've noticed your strengths in," and I think we could further develop in, provide a balanced feedback. It's important to acknowledge strengths while also guiding on areas of improvement. This can be followed by, "How do you feel about working on these areas?" to engage them in their own development process. Fourth scenario, encouraging independent problem solving. In situations where you want to encourage independence, you might say, "I'm interested to hear your approach to this problem." This invites them to take the lead in problem solving. You can build on this with, "What resources or support do you think you'll need?" to show readiness to assist without taking over. And finally, the fifth scenario, navigating team dynamics. When mentoring someone on navigating team dynamics, phrases like, "How do you see your role within the team?" can be enlightening. This helps them reflect on their position and contributions. To further the discussions, use, "What steps can you take to enhance collaboration with your colleagues?" This encourages proactive engagement with the team. Each one of these scenarios demonstrates how you can apply the phrases we've discussed in real-life mentoring situations. Remember, the key to successful mentoring in a business context, especially when English is not your first language, is to communicate clearly, respectfully, and empathetically. Your role as a mentor is not just to advise, but to guide and empower. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Business English Podcast. And it has been a pleasure guiding you through professional, not patronising, mentoring in business English. Today, we navigated the intricacies of mentorship communication, exploring phrases that enhance professionalism, respect, and effectiveness. We also delved into those phrases best avoided to maintain a supportive and empowering mentoring environment. As we close, I encourage you to reflect on the lessons from today's episode. Think about how you can use them and incorporate these phrases into your daily professional interactions, especially in those crucial moments of mentoring. Remember, the art of mentoring in business English goes beyond mere language proficiency. It's about understanding, empathy, and the ability to inspire and guide others. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and to the YouTube channel for more insightful episodes. Your feedback is invaluable, so please leave us a review or send in your comments. We're always eager to hear how we can better serve you on your learning journey. In our next episode, we'll explore another fascinating aspect of business English, so make sure you tune in. Until then, keep practicing, stay curious, and of course, keep it strictly business. You have been listening to the Business English Podcast. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and we'll see you next time.